Sometimes we fight so hard just to survive the storm, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, the silence from God. And when the breakthrough finally comes, when the chains fall, the doors open, and the tears dry, we think that's the end of the story. But what if I told you God didn't bring you through the fire just to leave you by the ashes? What if the breakthrough was just the prologue, not the finale? I came to speak to someone tonight who's been through hell and high water, who thought the breakthrough was the blessing, but God sent me to remind you. Backhand, medium, He has more for you. More healing, more purpose, more favor, more glory. After the breakthrough, you're not just a survivor. You're a seed that's about to sprout into something the world has never seen. Let's go deeper, because God has more for you right on the other side of that breakthrough. You've been praying, fasting, crying, and pushing. You've fought battles no one knew about, wiped tears off your own cheeks, and still showed up like everything was fine. You went through that valley and came out breathing, and now, finally, you've had your breakthrough. That moment where the chains fell off. That moment when you could finally breathe again, when the weight started lifting, when something shifted inside of you and said, "This is it, it's turning around." And while you celebrate, and you should, I need you to hear me with your spirit. This is not the finish line. This isn't the place where you unpack, sit down, and say, "I've arrived." Your breakthrough was never meant to be the destination. It was only meant to be the launch pad. God didn't free you so you could stand still. He freed you so He could send you. See, the problem is that some of us have mistaken freedom for fulfillment. We think because the pain has paused, we've reached the promise. But the pain ending was just permission to begin again. And if you're not careful, you'll stop in a space that was only meant to transition you. You'll settle in survival when God's calling you into stewardship. He brought you through for a reason. That divorce didn't just happen so you could say, "I made it out." That heartbreak, that bankruptcy, that depression, that addiction, God didn't just break you out of it to give you a story. He gave you an assignment. Because when He releases you from a thing, He expects you to move forward in purpose, not just sit in celebration. Your breakthrough was heaven's way of saying, now you're ready, and not ready to rest, but ready to rise. You endured the fire, but now it's time to walk in the fire. That's what the enemy doesn't want you to realize, that there's a new level after the breakthrough. That the real battle isn't what you survived, it's what you'll choose to believe now that you're free. Will you believe that you're worthy of more? Will you believe that God really does have next level favor for you? Or will you go back to familiar patterns because freedom feels foreign? Sometimes the enemy doesn't need to steal your breakthrough. He just needs you to stall in it. He just needs you to believe that this small taste of freedom is all God has for you. He wants you to build your home in a hallway when God had a mansion prepared down the road. But I feel the Spirit saying, don't stop here. Don't stop just because the crisis ended. Don't stop just because the battle calmed. God didn't deliver you so you could decorate the wilderness. He delivered you so you could step into destiny. That's why the breakthrough felt so hard. That's why it almost took you out, because what's coming after this is weighty. It's deep, it's divine. It's going to require all of you, and God couldn't trust you with next until you passed the test of now. You had to learn how to praise with a broken heart. You had to learn how to trust God when He was silent. You had to learn how to worship while wounded, because the version of you that survived isn't the version that's going to carry the assignment. That was the stripping. This new space, this is the birthing. And I know it can feel strange. After you've been in survival mode for so long, sometimes the blessing feels heavy too. You look around and you don't know what to do with this peace. You don't know what to do with joy that doesn't hurt, and so you question it. You wonder if you really deserve it. You wonder if it's going to last. But hear me, this is your permission to believe again. God didn't just bring you out. He brought you up. He didn't just move the mountain. He handed you the blueprint to build on the other side of it. The breakthrough was just the introduction. The real story begins now. The real growth, the real calling, the real authority, it begins after the breakthrough. Sometimes we walk out of a breakthrough thinking we're the same person who went into it, but let me tell you something, you're not. You're not just free, you're different. You may look like the same woman, but something deep in your spirit has shifted. That pain you endured didn't just leave scars, it left power. That season that tried to break you ended up revealing what God placed inside of you that you didn't even know was there. You see, healing is not just about recovery, it's about discovery. It's where God peels back the layers that life, trauma, and fear built around your identity. The pain had a purpose, and even though it felt like it was going to consume you, it was really working to reveal you. You weren't buried under the weight of it, you were planted. And now that the breakthrough has come, now that the ground has shifted, you're about to see what's been growing in you all along. We ask God to deliver us, but we forget that sometimes deliverance exposes the parts of us that have been asleep. God didn't just bring you through so you could feel relief. He brought you through to show you who you are. The fire you came out of activated something divine. It was a spiritual awakening. And now, what once felt like weakness has become your greatest weapon. You used to shrink back. You used to question if you were enough. But now you walk different. Now you speak different. Now, when the enemy shows up, you don't panic, you pray. You don't break, you build. Because the healing you received unlocked the very gifts that were hidden behind your pain. That's why the enemy fought you so hard. That's why it felt like everything in your life was under attack. Because your gifts were wrapped in struggle, your calling was hidden in chaos, and as long as you stayed broken, you stayed blind to who you really were. But healing gave you vision, healing showed you the truth, and that truth is you are anointed, called, and carrying something powerful. The very thing that tried to destroy you ended up developing you, and I need you to hear that in your spirit. Because there's a version of you that the enemy never wanted you to meet. He was hoping you'd stay stuck in the version of you that was always doubting, always surviving, always second, guessing. But God said, no, I'm going to let her see herself. I'm going to let her know herself, because what I placed in her is ready to be revealed. You were born for this next chapter. I know you didn't think you were strong enough. I know you didn't think you had what it takes, but that's because the old you hadn't met the healed you yet. And now, you're beginning to realize that everything you walked through was preparation. Every tear watered your purpose. Every loss carved out space for legacy. Every delay was divine timing getting you ready to carry something greater. This is why we can't resent the process. We can't despise the pain, because if you're willing to heal, you'll see the gold underneath the ashes. You'll see that nothing was wasted. Not the sleepless nights, not the silent prayers, not the days you felt like giving up. God was shaping you. He was growing you in the dark. He was making sure that when the breakthrough came, you wouldn't just stand free, you'd stand whole. And wholeness brings clarity. When you're healed, you stop chasing validation. When you're healed, you stop settling for survival. When you're healed, you recognize that the same hand that held you in your lowest is the hand that's now lifting you to your highest. And you don't have to apologize for that. You don't have to dim your light or shrink your presence to make others comfortable. Your breakthrough wasn't just for you. It was for the people who will find their healing through your testimony. So now, you carry something sacred. You carry wisdom. You carry authority. You carry evidence that God still heals, still restores, still resurrects what looks dead. And when you walk into rooms now, you don't just enter with confidence, you enter with clarity. Because healing didn't just show you who you are, it reminded you whose you are. That's what the breakthrough did. It didn't just release you, it revealed you. And now that you've seen who you really are, don't you ever go back. After the breakthrough, there's this moment where everything feels unfamiliar. You're not in the wilderness anymore, but you're not quite in the promised land either. And if you're not careful, you'll try to step into your next using the mindset from your past. But can I tell you something real? What God is doing in your life now requires a new mindset. The breakthrough may have opened the door, but how you think will determine if you can stay in the room. God is trying to bless you in ways your old thinking can't hold. He's trying to elevate you into spaces where insecurity, fear, and doubt can't follow. That's why your mind has to shift. The version of you that survived the storm isn't the same version God is calling to lead in this next season. The old mindset knew how to fight battles, but this new season, it requires strategy, it requires trust. It requires a renewed mind. The Bible says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind," not your title, not your job, not your relationship status, your mind. Because even after the chains fall off, if your mind is still chained to old patterns, you'll walk like a free woman living with a slave mentality. And God says, that's not what I brought you out for. There's a version of you that was formed in survival. That version knows how to hustle, knows how to grind, knows how to protect herself, how to keep her guard up. That version of you was necessary. She helped you get through some dark nights. She kept you from falling apart when everything else was crumbling. But in this new season, she can't lead, because what worked in survival mode will sabotage you in purpose mode. That guarded heart you developed in pain, it won't let love in. That distrust you built to protect yourself, it'll keep divine connections away. That voice in your head that told you to stay small so you wouldn't be noticed, it'll silence you when God says speak. You're not in Egypt anymore, but if your mind is still there, you'll end up missing your Canaan because it feels too unfamiliar. And I get it. Freedom is scary when you've been bound for so long. You don't know how to trust peace because you're used to the storm. You start asking, is this too good to be true? Am I waiting for the other shoe to drop? But what if you stopped waiting for something to go wrong and started expecting God to keep his promise? That shift, that's the new mindset. It's not just about thinking positive, it's about thinking heavenly. It's about aligning your thoughts with what God says, not what trauma trained you to believe. God is trying to take you higher, but your thoughts have to come with you. You can't keep replaying old lies in a new season. You can't keep telling yourself you're not enough when God already called you chosen. And it won't be easy. Renewing your mind isn't a one-time prayer, it's a daily decision. It's waking up and choosing to believe truth over triggers. It's catching yourself when you want to fall back into fear and saying, "No, I'm not going back there. That version of me doesn't live here anymore." Sometimes we ask God for the blessing, but when he starts stretching our thinking, we resist it. We want the opportunity, but not the responsibility. We want the platform, but not the pruning. We want the promise, but we don't want the process of becoming the person who can carry it. But God is too good to give you something you're not mentally prepared to steward, so he challenges your mindset. He lets situations expose how you still think small, how you still doubt, how you still expect disappointment. Not to shame you, but to grow you. Because where he's taking you, you're going to need faith that walks into a room and doesn't flinch. You're going to need vision that sees beyond what's in front of you. You're going to need confidence that doesn't come from people. It comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. This next level of your life is going to feel strange at first, because you've never seen this version of you before. But lean into it, trust it. God wouldn't bring you this far just to let you lose yourself now. You're not just being elevated, you're being transformed. And if you let him renew your mind, you'll see that you're not just stepping into something new, you're becoming someone new. The door is opened, but your mindset decides if you walk through it. After you've made it through the storm, after the chains have fallen and the breakthrough has come, it's easy to think the rest is all about you. That now you get to sit back and receive. And yes, God does want you to experience joy, peace, and rest. But make no mistake, the breakthrough wasn't just for your personal comfort. It was for kingdom impact. God delivered you because he's about to deploy you. See, we sometimes think God is done once we're healed. We think the story ends when we get the job, the healing, the relationship, the restoration. But that's just the beginning. Because now that you're free, now that you've seen what God can do, you're carrying something. You're carrying evidence. And evidence isn't meant to be hidden, it's meant to testify. It's meant to move something, shift something, break something in someone else's life. Your breakthrough is someone else's blueprint. Someone's been waiting to hear your story to believe they can come out too. Someone's been watching you to see if healing is even possible. And you've got the kind of testimony that won't just inspire, it will activate. It'll wake people up, it'll shake chains off, but only if you don't keep it to yourself. God never does anything in isolation. Everything He brings you through, everything He blesses you with, everything He breaks off of your life, it's all connected to someone else's deliverance. He multiplies healing through witness. That's why the enemy didn't just want to keep you in bondage, he wanted to keep you quiet. Because he knows if you ever step into your authority, if you ever use your voice, if you ever tell your truth out loud, something will shift. You thought the battle was just about you, but it wasn't. It was about the generations coming after you. It was about the legacy you're building. It was about the people you haven't even met yet, who are going to be set free because you decided to stand up and walk in what God gave you. That's why your breakthrough feels heavy, because it's not just a blessing, it's a mantle, and with that mantle comes movement. You're not just stepping into more peace, you're stepping into more purpose. God is about to use your healed heart, your renewed mind, your restored spirit to bring hope into dark places. You're going to start seeing the people around you shift. You're going to speak and things will break. You're going to show up and the atmosphere will change, not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. But you have to understand, with more comes responsibility. And I don't say that to scare you, I say it to prepare you. Because the more God gives you, the more you'll have to guard your spirit, protect your peace, and remain rooted. He's trusting you with this assignment. He's trusting you not to just celebrate the miracle, but to multiply it. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. You are the breakthrough someone is crying for. And not because you're perfect, not because you have it all figured out, but because you didn't quit. Because you kept showing up, because you let God pull you out of the pit, and now He's going to use you to pull others out too. So no, this next season is not just about personal elevation, it's about kingdom elevation, it's about lifting others while you rise. It's about showing the world what grace looks like, what healing looks like, what power looks like when it's been purified through the fire. That's why you can't go back, that's why you can't stay silent, that's why you can't play small anymore. You're not just a survivor, you're a carrier of glory. You're not just a woman with a story, you're a woman on assignment. There's more coming, not just for you, but through you. And when you walk in that, when you accept that your breakthrough wasn't the end but the beginning of a greater mission, then you start to live not just healed but called. This is the part where legacy begins.